What it do, cyber world? It is your girl, the one and only, Ash Brown, and this is the theashsaiditshow. Over 2,000 episodes since 2014, over 500,000 streams worldwide and growing. None of this is possible without you guys, so I thank you so very much. Today, I've got one of my favorite people, okay? And this is like the first time that we're actually meeting, but she's my favorite because she's talking about one of my favorite topics in her new book, 30 Breads to Bake Before You Die, the wonderful Allyson Reedy. Hey, Allyson.
Hey, Ash. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Allyson. Just from the book title and looking at the previews and stuff, I was like, I gotta talk to this lady. Yeah, she's one of my favorite people.
Bread people are good people. Yes. So, yes, if you're a bread girl, you're my girl.
I love it. So, all right, so let's start at the beginning. Where did the idea for this particular book even come from?
So it actually started, this is the second in the kind of to bake before you die series. And the first one is 50 things to bake before you die, which was desserts. And that book was like a kind of a compilation of all the best brownies and cookies and cakes and pies and all that stuff from like Christina Tosti, Joanne Chang, Duff Goldman, Dominique Ansel, like all these amazing bakers and all their great recipes. And then it was like, well, that was so fun. I want to do this again. I want to do another book. And what else do I love? And so after dessert, breads was kind of the next logical thing, the next love of my life.
Oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, and we were talking beforehand, I don't know if I even trust anyone, Allyson, if they don't love bread. I'm like, I don't know if I trust you. I don't think we can be cool. I don't see that happening.
I'm all about the carbs right there with you.
I love it. All right. So we've got 30 solid recipes in this book, this new cookbook. Now, how were you able to narrow down? Because there are so many different type of breads just across the globe. There's so many, way more than 30. How did you narrow it down to these specific ones?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a challenge trying to figure out what to include, what not to include. I wanted to get a pretty good variety so that the book is broken into, like, we have loaves, and we have, in that section, we have, like, some sourdoughs. But then I didn't want to do an entire sourdough book just because that's so intimidating to so many people, myself included. So we do have some sourdoughs, but I think there's only 4 or 5 recipes that require a starter. And then we have just, like, I wanted to do easier bread, something that you can do and it doesn't take, all day to bake and to rise and everything. So we have, like, a 3-ingredient bread. We have sweet breads, like banana bread and chocolate vodka king cake. We have the flat breads, like a pizza crust. We have naan, a cheesy naan that's so good. We have pitas, tortillas, matzah. And then I also wanted, like, your dinner rolls, your biscuits. We have sweet potato biscuits. We have mozzarella stuffed bread and pretzels and English muffins. And I just tried to think of things I wanted to eat. And I figured if I want to eat them, hopefully other people will.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Like, you're naming breads and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds delicious.
I know. So I want to eat them right now.
I know. That would be awesome. Okay, so we talked about some of the easier recipes. What bread recipe out of these would you say is not necessarily hard, but maybe a little bit more challenging for, prep and stuff?
Yeah, I would say the baguette. Because for that one, you have to shape it. You can't just put it into a Dutch oven or put it into, like, a loaf pan. You're shaping it yourself. And some of these breads, I mean, they can be fussy. And I guess the same thing in terms of shaping would be the pretzels. But for the pretzel, I did like a step-by-step how you fold the dough and roll out the dough and everything. So hopefully it was actually easier than I thought because I was pretty intimidated by that too the first time I made them. So hopefully by having, like, kind of the step-by-step instructions, it takes out some of the difficulty of it. But I would say anything that requires you to shape the bread, those can be a little more difficult.
Yeah, I definitely think that the recipes are super easy to follow, which I love because, we're not like huge, baking stuff from scratch. Like, that's something that I've honestly just kind of picked up really maybe in the last 5 or 6 years. Like, growing up, it was just easy. Just, you go to the store, you go and get your bread, you get your stuff. But having homemade bread, it's a game changer to where you're like,
Yeah.
I don't even want to buy bread anymore. I want to make my own bread. So
yeah, it just tastes so much better that it makes it worth the effort.
It does. It absolutely does make it worth the effort. Oh my goodness. I know that this question is going to be like, picking your favorite child, but which we'll say your top three. What are your favorite recipes in this book?
Okay. I'm going to go first with The Beginner's Sourdough by Maurizio Leo, who is, he's a cookbook author also. He's a baking blogger, The Perfect Loaf. And I would say this one just because it is so delicious.
Yeah.
And it was the first sourdough I ever made. And so it's like, wow, how did this work so well the first time that the recipe is just that good? And trust me, like, if there's a way to screw it up, I would screw it up. So I would say the first one is that sourdough. Another favorite is, I'll go with the bagels, the maple salt and pepper bagels. And it's from Call Your Mother Deli, which is in Washington, D.C. And there's also one here in Denver, where I live. Yeah. And they're just so good. And it's another one where it's like, I can't make my own bagels. Like, I never thought I could do that. And then they turned out on the first try, and they were so good.
Oh, my gosh.
And third one, I'm going to go with the chocolate babka king cake, which is from some bakers in New Orleans. And just listen to that, right? Like, chocolate
yes, chocolate babka. Like, those are like my two favorite words now.
It's so good and gooey and everything that you want it to be.
Yes. Oh, wow. And I just have to say, your photographer, phenomenal. I love these shots.
Yeah, I agree. Vanessa Meir, she did such a great job.
Yeah, shout out to Vanessa because, like I said, every shot of this, the different products, the different breads are just like, oh my gosh, I want to like taste it through the paper. I want to eat my phone now because I'm reading it. I'm like, this looks delicious. So yeah, shout out to her. Definitely.
Thank you. Yes, Vanessa did such a good job and it was so fun to work with.
Yeah. So if you had to guesstimate from start to finish, how long did it take you to complete this book?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say it probably took close to a year.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know. I don't know if that's fast or slow for a cookbook, but that's about how long it took in terms of, just trying to get the recipes, test all the recipes, write them up, photograph them, all the editing, everything. Yeah. Probably about a year.
Oh, wow. I'm sure everybody was like volunteering to go by your house as you're testing these different bread recipes.
I
like,
know. Yeah.
I gotta go check on Allyson. I haven't seen her in the last 24 hours. She's baking. I love it. I love it. Now, last but certainly not least, what advice would you offer for the next generation of novice bakers?
I would say just go for it. I mean, that was kind of my holdup is I was so intimidated, like, by the starter. Like, why would I need a starter? I don't even know what that is. And the same thing with doing the other cookbook, like making the cakes and doing things I didn't really think I could do. Like, just go for it. And one of those recipes in particular from the first book were macarons, which I thought, there's no way I can make those. And I remember I was so stressed out about it. And my daughter's like, your accomplishment is just trying to make it. And I'm just like, wow, you are so right. You're like 9 years old, but you are so right. Like, just trying and just putting in the effort. I mean, just going for it. And really, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're dealing with, like, butter and sugar and flour and delicious things. It's still going to taste good, even if it doesn't look perfect. So I would say, just go for it. Just give it a try.
I love it. Allyson Reedy, thank you so much for coming through today. We certainly appreciate
you. Thank you for having me.
And let everyone know where they can get their copy, 30 Breads to Bake Before You Die.
You should be able to find it wherever books are sold or online, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. And any kind of events and stuff, you can check out my Instagram, which is Allyson, ALLYSON, Eats Den, and I'll post updates and stuff about it.
I love it. Much more success to you and the whole team, Allyson. Certainly appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate it.
Not a problem. And everyone that's tuned in, thank you so much for all of your love and support. It makes a huge, huge difference. And keep in mind, anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face, you tell them, don't believe me. Just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for, the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is so much better. Until next time, you guys.